can see you clearly. Tote
Hello, you are listening to Butia Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your host. So this episode is episode number 5, and I am posting it a little bit later than I expected to. I wanted to drop them all like Netflix style, and I had finished editing the episode, and then today would have been Breonna Taylor's birthday. She would have been 27. And I had been kind of holding off on going to a protest, but today a protest found me. There was one down the street for me, and I just had to go. So if this gets posted after midnight, I just want you to know there were valid reasons for why. For today's episode, I'm really excited to have my friend, I guess new friend. We haven't officially met in person. I take that back. We actually did meet in person very briefly today as we were marching. The place that she works at was handing out water to the protesters, and she handed me some water. So I thought that was really funny. So Mira Dee and I work together at Fortune Teller Bar, and, you know, she has been posting a lot of videos to focus on tarot in a way that is more healing past trauma and healing yourself. And I think right now in this time when everyone is doing what they can, propel the movement forward to keep this rebellion going, a lot of people aren't doing the work to kind of just like self-care, you know? I think that a lot of people are very focused on being there every day and just doing what they need to do. But if you don't take the time to take care of yourself, it is a disservice to yourself and the people around you. So I want to get into this conversation about tarot, and here we go. Mira Dee, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hello, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. First of all, you know, I'm glad that we could do this. I'm always willing to have a conversation with people about magic and tarot especially because it's been such a huge tool for me.
Same here. It's been a really big tool for me as well. Like it started for me with dreams and then eventually moved into evolved into different things and then finally ended up with tarot. But I never thought that reading cards as a teenager would bring me to where I am with reading cards now, with learning things about myself and with helping others to learn about themselves as well. So it's been quite the journey.
That's impressive that you've been doing it for so long. How old would you say you were when you started?
13 or 14. I guess the way that I got started with reading cards is when I was really, really young, I had a lot of prophetic dreams. And, when you're a kid and everything, you think that everybody dreams the same way. So I thought that these things would happen the next day. In 2 weeks, I would see something on the news that I dreamt about the night before and I would tell my mom about it. I grew up in a really religious family. And so it was like a very misunderstood thing, like the prophetic dreaming. So I didn't get a lot of support in it, but my family did the best that they knew how with where they were at that time in their life. And so I was told, I went to the pastor and everything, and he told me that, it was just a test from God, because being a psychic was, the devil. And so that didn't quite resonate with me. And I don't think I even knew what resonating was back then, but it didn't really sit with me. And so we used to go to Borders bookstore all the time. And I at first thought this whole store was full of just children's books and Bibles. And finally, I asked this lady, I was like, do you have any books on dreams? And she's like, say no more, and introduced me to the metaphysical section. And so once I got into the metaphysical section, I started branching out. I really started to understand dreaming. And it was the first time in my life that I heard any positive descriptions of dreaming and psychic abilities and how to use these things to our advantage and to help others and to heal. And so I did that and I got really good at it until I was about 12 or 13 years old. And I got really freaked out because I started to question whether what I was doing was actually wrong or not. And then after about 9 months of I quit dreaming and everything, I guess I put up some type of mental block, and I finally decided that it's up to each person as an individual to figure out who they are and to take whatever path it is that they need to connect to themselves and to connect to the source and things. And so I picked up tarot as a way to reconnect to my intuition when I was 13 or so, and I've been reading ever since.
Have you ever talked to any of your other family members who have similar gifts?
My daughter, actually. When I was younger, not a lot of my family had similar gifts or really talked about it very much if they did. But my daughter, she's 8 now, she talks a lot about like, like similar to the stuff that I did back in the day about dreams and spirituality, and talks about seeing like her spirit guides and things like that. And that didn't come from me. That's stuff that she came up with on her own. As far as like the rest of like my family and stuff, they've all become a lot more accepting, and they've all changed a lot, like, in the ways they view spirituality and things like that. But no, I didn't have anybody else in the family to really talk to about it. So it was just something that I learned. I was like 10 years old in the hood studying feng shui and clairvoyance. So
You were different.
definitely.
In my experience, I feel like being Mexican, I feel like I see a lot of like similarities in the Black community, and it's a lot of the religious kind of overtones for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I've noticed that too, very grounded in Christianity.
So you have groups though, like that practice Santeria, and Santeria, you have the influence of the African diaspora and the Orishas, but then you also have Catholicism, and I know that that was like a way to practice in the open. So it's strange because like there are so many people who are religious, but they still tie if they do have magical practices, they like tie it with their religion, and that's just not my jam.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I know there's so many things like growing up that I heard too, like in the Black community and stuff, that was like very voodoo related, like very deeply embedded in magic. But I think that it was something that, like you said, we had to kind of hide in plain sight, to the point that it eventually became just a tradition. Like, people didn't even recognize it as magic anymore by the time it got down to my parents' generation, or your parents' generation and stuff too. So it just like, a normal thing.
It's so interesting to me that like my mom is really, really big with like home remedies and stuff. So like when she's like, "Oh, I'm not a witch," I'm like, "Then what is this tea you're making?"
One of my oldest memories of like, something that seemed like we had a lot of like magical type stuff going on. Like there was always like these little home remedies. And then like, I remember like my mom telling me about, or I overheard like my family talking about like, a cousin of mine, like menstrual blood and somebody's stuff. And I was like, that is straight up voodoo right there. Like, but they're like, "Oh no, it's not though. That's just the way it is." And I'm like, well, okay.
Whatever you have to tell yourself, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Like there's like so many stories and things that like were very embedded in magic. Like even just like, planting with the seasons, or little like stories that my grandma had and things like that about like why we plant or things like that. And I'm like, this is definitely like in the realm of magic.
It's funny to me sometimes the mental gymnastics that people will do to convince themselves it isn't. Do you remember your first tarot deck that you had when you first started reading?
Yeah, I still have it, and I still read with it usually. It's like ready to go back up on the shelf, but I still have it. I keep it in my purse everywhere I go.
How many decks do you have at this point?
I think 8 decks.
Once you get one, they all just find you.
They do though.
I don't have quite as many. I have 3.
Yeah, I got like, I don't know where they come from. Like that's one thing too, is I don't really know where they come from. Like I know I bought like a Thoth deck because I recently started getting into like the Hermetics and the Egyptian magic and stuff like that. And the rest of them, I have like one that a friend of mine gave me, and they just kind of accumulated. And I feel like every time I give one away, because I'll give them to people sometimes, then like 2 more come my way. So
But honestly, it's great because I kind of think that as of right now, I have 2 decks that I really use. I have 3. Someone apparently is mailing me a 4th one because, again, they just accumulate. But I'm a different case, I guess, with like tarot readers, because I read a lot more until I actually had my deck. And my first deck was actually the one that I helped co-create. Once I actually had the cards in my hands, I was like, holy shit, I just like know this.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy how you like just pick up on like the vibe of different decks and stuff. And even like I feel like after you've been reading for so long, you can even pick up on the artist's like interpretation of that card versus like the general like Rider Waite version of it too. It's wild how like basically, I feel like once you picked up cards, like you have them in your aura forever.
And again, the reason that I had you on today is because you do your readings quite different than most people do. Like most people want to present the information for how to proceed forward and, like kind of things to look forward to, but you don't necessarily always do that.
No, I more so go at like, I look at what needs to be worked with right now. Like I can go in, like I can see things that are coming up in the future sometimes, but more so the way that I see is like lessons that are coming up, ways that you'll be led, like forks in the road, things like that. But more so, I focus more on what you can do in this moment to move yourself into becoming the person that you want to be and to being able to handle the things that you're asking for in life. So mine is more, it is more of like a self-healing thing, because I really truly believe that everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside. And if you get yourself in the habit of working on that inner world, the outside will start to reflect that naturally, rather than trying to force the outer world to reflect something that you're not quite on that level with yet, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense. And that type of reading style, like the intuitive figuring out like the healing from within to fix the outside, is difficult, and it sucks because that's not always everyone's jam. People kind of just want, like, I'll have people who are like, when am I going to meet someone? You have to be the buffer between the cards, because the cards are kind of just like, not until you learn to love yourself, bitch. And it's like, well, have you noticed that maybe there are patterns with the typical people that you date? Or do you feel like maybe there's like, do you check in with yourself? Like, do you really feel that you are happy and excited and maybe not like nervous and kind of anxious for some reason? Not everyone likes that, because they're like, when am I gonna meet the love of my life?
It's straight up an art. Like it takes it's an art form to be able to explain to people and to get people to kind of guide people in that way, because a lot of people are just looking for specific answers. They're like, okay, well, is he coming back? Oh, well, why isn't he coming back? How is he feeling? Yeah, I'm not a tarot spy at the end of the day. So, but I feel like that my style of reading is like a little bit harder for people, because people are so used to fortune tellers, like, call me. Oh yeah, I see love in your future. And sometimes I do see love in people's futures, but how do I put this? I do see love in people's futures, but there are people who come to the tarot expecting a certain answer, and that's all they want is that certain answer. And there are people who are open to what the tarot has to actually say. Do you relate to that?
Oh, I relate to that a lot, because I do distance readings as well. Do you?
Yeah, I do as well.
I had a woman who called me. I guess it was kind of late. So it was late here, and she was Eastern time, so I know it was late there. It's like kind of in a dark place with the fact that her and her boyfriend had broken up, and just really wanted to know if they were going to get back together, and the cards were screaming no. Like, the cards were totally screaming no. It was just so hard, because I feel like she just wanted to hear yes, and I told her no, and she's like, so we're just never going to get back together. And I was like, no, and I really, like, from what I'm getting from the cards, I really, really do think that you're putting so much weight on a relationship, which I understand, like, we've been taught to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I just felt like she was putting so much weight, like, this person was going to complete her. Not to be rude or no disrespect, because I feel like that's what, like, Disney and Hollywood and sitcoms and shit has taught us, that either you can change a man or you can change someone to love you, or that, if you wait around and you suffer enough, like, it's going to all be worthwhile. And it's like, have your dignity and love yourself. Like,
absolutely.
And, I went through a time like that. So I can't even be up here on like my high horse. Like, I went through a time like that where I just felt like you want that person to love you so bad. It's not meant to be. And
trust and believe. I've been there too.
Yeah. I think we've all been there. I think everyone has like had that unrequited love,
And I think it is because of our programming, because we are taught to we are taught that we have to pay a price for love, and in having to pay it, we don't realize that it's free everywhere all the time. And like, the more we treat ourselves like well, the better other people will treat us as well. But like, we are taught that we have to, like you said, change a man, get him to do what we want him to do. What's the thing that I always heard growing up? The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. It has nothing to do with being yourself. So I grew up and became a chef naturally. So like, that's just the things that we're taught. And so getting people out of that program, and which is like what I'm going with like right now. Over the past couple of days, I've been making a series about undoing our programming, because in order to undo it, we have to first recognize that it's an issue in the first place. But some of us, like even back then when I was like in those situations and stuff, like sticking in like relationships, trying to win love, trying to buy love, I had no idea that, that was a pattern that was given to me, rather than like now I'm old enough and like I've experienced enough to like kind of start to break that down and to like understand a little bit more about like, who I am and what self-love means, and like, how self-love is what's going to attract the person for me that treats me the way that I treat me. So
have you passed your Saturn's return yet?
I have. Saturn returned hard on my ass, let me tell you.
Had mine in February, and all of these things that I was still caring about that really didn't mean anything, it's like they all fell, and I was like, holy shit, I truly give no fucks. Like, and I guess the way that I mean it is like something I give a total fuck about is racism. Like, if you're being racist in my presence, be prepared to be checked hard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like, because I don't tolerate anymore and I don't give the fucks about people liking me, I just say things and like am willing to be done with it. Like, in my presence once, someone had told me that they were okay with the camps. That's not okay with me. It's not okay to treat people like this. It's not okay to treat any life like this. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember standing up and like pointing at him and being like, you don't know shit about shit. We're here because we have to be here because the US went and destabilized our fucking governments and we're here. Do you think I wouldn't want to be in a beautiful balmy beach somewhere? I have to be here. And I was just like screaming and saying all this shit to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like stormed out, and it was one of those situations where I didn't find my phone and I was like, well, fuck, I can't go in there. And if it's in there, it's gone. Luckily, I came home and it was here because I was like, God damn it, I gotta go to like T-Mobile. I gotta talk to them about a new phone.
I can't go back in there.
I can never show my face there again.
I feel you on that 100%. Saturn hit my ass, so Saturn returned so hard on my ass that I moved 1,200 miles away. I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, everything that I knew, everything I grew up with, every relationship that I dated, I like left everything behind. When I like Saturn, I was actually a fortune teller, and Madame Rose was the one who introduced me to a Saturn return. She was like, oh, you're in your Saturn return right now. I'm like, my Saturn what? And she's like, your Saturn return. So I bet you just like moved away somewhere, like trying to get away from your old life. And I did. I had just moved from like St. Charles to St. Louis, trying to get away from that life. And she kind of predicted everything. She's like, yeah, you're going to go farther. And like, you know, you really want to shed a bunch of old skin. And sure enough, like 4 months later, I was on a plane to Boston, left my house here so my mom could like, I asked my mom to like, you know, clean it up because I just felt this pulling and this calling in my soul to have to go. I had to be somewhere, you know, and where I had to be was like, you know, on a path to finding myself, which I wasn't able to do here. But yeah, when Saturn came along, like a lot of things changed. The things I thought, the person that I thought I was no longer resonating with me. My old habits, like, you know, the old baggage, the things I grew up with, like that type of stuff, like racism did not change for me. Like, I think I became a lot more open and aware to like the racist things that were going on around me and stuff like that. And I found my voice, which was really big in my Saturn return because I had just through like growing up with a mom that didn't like allow me to like, you know, express my feelings and things like that. And then dating people who mimicked the same habits as my mom, you know, and then finally getting to Boston and realizing that like I have this voice and I can like say the things that I want to say. So it was like a big thing. Saturn tore off everything, but people really got to see the angry side of me. And with astrology, my south node is Libra and my north node is Aries. So I'm supposed to move from being like this really passive person into this fiery warrior, which, ooh, it's coming. I feel it. I can definitely feel that Aries flaring up in me because I like, once I found that voice, boy, I've been out here using it for everything, rapping, singing, talking, telling people about themselves, defending, you know, standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves and for healing. You know, the voice is so powerful.
My voice has been something that I feel like I've always had. So my Saturn return didn't give me that. My Saturn return gave me the ability to just quit things that no longer benefit me. I have been able to shed, like you said, a lot of stuff that really just doesn't make me happy anymore. I would stay working at places that were like either not moving me up or whatever. Have you seen Latin History for Morons?
Mm-mm.
The John Leguizamo stand-up?
I have not. I would like to see it though.
The reason I bring it up is there's a part when it's starting in the intro, and it's like, one day there's gonna be a little Latina, her loud mouth, she's gonna read a lot of books. That's me. That's me. I grew up predominantly in a place that was mostly white people, and I think that for a really long time, even though I was standing up for what was right, I think I wanted part of them to still like me.
Yep, that's exactly my situation too. Mm-hmm.
And it was finally when I could just be like, I don't give a fuck about you. Like, did things get better?
I feel you with that because that's like, so my problem was I grew up like in the hood and stuff like that. And like, I grew up and like I was so different that I wasn't really like widely accepted by that set of people and everything. And so when I got old enough to like, get a job, I ventured out, like, and got a job at Panera out in Creve Coeur. And so going out there, like I started to be around like a bunch of white people and stuff like that. And so I like kind of learned how to operate in both worlds, but I was in like such a place of like, I was in such a place of needing acceptance that I kind of allowed people on both sides to like kind of treat me however they wanted to, because I was like in desperate need of friends. So a lot of learning how to be social for me with both like white people and black people came a lot with like me, like just kind of being passive, if that makes sense. But as I've gotten older and as I've stopped giving like more of a fuck of what people like what of needing like acceptance, now that I found that within myself, like it doesn't matter who it is. If I see you doing something like, that's out of line, you're getting called out on it, because how else are you going to learn? How else is your behavior going to change if nobody's telling you that what you're doing is out of line? Now, I can't force you to change that. However, it is still my job to let you know that, hey, what you're doing is out of line, because I have been the problem before where I've allowed things like that to slip through the cracks. And I've allowed things like, racism to slip through the cracks and like, little passes and things like that. And so I have to like, now that I have my voice, it's everything must go. It's like a clearance sale. Everything must go. Now I be cutting cords every day.
I've cut a lot of cords. It's interesting because even before my Saturn's return, because they say you start feeling the effects like at 27 on.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't even fully wrap until about 33. Like around 27 is when I really started to just kind of feel like maybe we shouldn't be friends. Maybe we shouldn't hang out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I, unfortunately, because I have so much fire in my chart, it always tends to be a really dramatic thing. And it doesn't need to be. I'm hoping that with my Saturn return, that's something I can work on. But it's always like some misunderstanding that just like blows up, and it's like, all right, and now we hate each other.
Very the Tower-ish card. Like it's a very the Tower, like death card type of energy.
It's funny. My mom was joking around the other day. She's like, Rebecca, remember when you had friends? And I was like,
oh, I was just getting that the other day.
A lot of the things that can be cut off, that's extra. I'm cutting the fat,
Who you telling me? That's what that's one of the things my roommate was saying recently. She's like, you're just always talking about how like you don't have any friends, how you like to be alone. And I'm like, yeah, because like I've grown less tolerance of people. Like I don't need people around enough anymore to tolerate things that don't help me grow and things that don't serve me, So like back when I was like in a place of needing acceptance, I was like, you might not be the best person to be around, like, but it's okay. We can kick it. But like, so now I'm like, I got astrology reading, a natal chart reading the other day. And the lady was like, your 11th house is empty. She's like, that's okay. She's like, most Scorpios don't do like, friends anyway. And I'm like, that's it. It's not that I dislike people. It's just that like I don't like things that I choose not to have things in my life that get in the way of my own energy, to get in the way of who I am and what I'm being and like what I stand for, like as an individual too. But I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart. So I've got Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, and 3 other planets in Scorpio. So a total of 5 in Scorpio with a Taurus rising that makes me come off really, really grounded. I'm devastated 5 times a minute, just so you know, on the inside though. So my friendship breakups tend to be really drawn out. I'm always like trying to break up with them, and then they, because Scorpios never let go. I always try to break up with them, and then they give me a reason to stay, and then I try to break up again, and then eventually I just kind of dip off the face of the earth, and that's how it's been going for me.
You know what? I think I need some of that Scorpio energy. Because, yeah, at this point, it's just like, I don't know, I could have friends and I could hang out with them, or I could edit a podcast and work on things that benefit me. If I don't enjoy it, if it doesn't help others, I'm just like not about it.
That's literally where I'm at now.
Our inner witches coming out, because I feel like traditionally witches were always kind of loners anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something I've been like, really accepting with myself and everything too, because I think one of the harder things with me putting out the healing, series that I'm putting out now, is that I was a little bit like scared of like how people might receive the information or whatnot, because as also like a person, like, as a Black woman and everything too, I feel like I might get pushed back, and it might be just my interference from like, from the Black community as well for not doing enough or whatnot, or for being like so not really neutral, but just like paying attention to all sides and things like that. And I don't want to like feel like I'm stepping like, into the world, like, the world of like the white guilt and all that type of stuff. So like, I guess like what I'm trying to say is that one of the things that I have to realize is that when we are people who are healers and people who are working on making changes, we're going to be alone a lot of the time. We are the leaders of these things. The witches are the leaders of healing. The witches are the leaders of the ideas and things that other people are just coming into. And so there's going to be a lot of parts where we're alone, where we're loners, where we're lonely, and where people don't quite agree with the things that we have to say. And so, but I guess my whole thing is like, that's part of my learning not to give a fuck, is because I feel in my heart that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have to take the lone road. Like, I've done it most of my life. So I have to take the lone road and like, continue to put out there what I believe in and what I feel is healing, despite whatever is going on around me.
Yeah. And honestly, you just have to do whatever keeps you in a good and balanced spot. I think that a lot of people right now are feeling guilt and like maybe even imposter syndrome, that they're not doing as much as they can.
Mm-hmm.
But, as long as you're doing something to help, which I think with like your healing series, I think that that's wonderful, because so many people right now with the movement are going out and, putting their all into it and not sleeping. It's wonderful to have that dedication to keep going out and doing stuff, but you really have to take care of yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're not taking care of yourself, if your glass, so to speak, isn't full, like, you're not only a disservice to yourself and you're a disservice to people around you. And, taking those couple of minutes to maybe like do some deep healing on yourself is really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that like, yeah, and I think like a friend of mine says like, it takes all kinds, like, and we have our warriors out here, like, fighting the good fight and everything. And then we have, our healers out here as well. Like, there are different types of people. Like, there's not going to be one type of person that that changes the entire paradigm. And so it takes all different kinds of people. It takes those who are working on themselves and those who are like, breaking down the system from the outside and things like that. So that's just something I'm just like, just coming into. So I think it's also part of me still healing the part of myself that needs it, like, that uses my voice.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Are you going back and forth between Boston, or are you like set here now?
I am set in St. Louis now. I was in Boston for a year and a half, and then I still go to Boston a couple times a year. I go there to visit. I've been back in St. Louis for about 6 months now. I go back to Boston to visit, and then during October, I go to Salem, Massachusetts to read cards up there for the entire month. And so I'm mostly set here. Spent some time, about 4 months in California, and then made my way back to St. Louis. Full hero's journey. I feel like the Saturn return, like I left and went to Boston and learned some things, and then went to Georgia like for a month, and then moved to California for 4 months, and then now I'm back, and I have decided to make, like, I used to not like St. Louis, but then I realized that it wasn't St. Louis that I disliked. It was the decisions and choices that I made while I was in St. Louis that I didn't like. So I realized now that coming back to St. Louis, I can make this a completely different place, because I am a completely different person who makes completely different choices. So, and it's been a really good ride so far. So
I'm really happy to hear that, this whole journey helped you. I went to Boston last year, so I have to real talk you for a second about the food.
okay.
Because I went to various places in Boston. I like to go to places I like to eat, and I'm not going to lie, the only thing that was impressive was how fresh the seafood was, but the seasonings and the flavor were lacking.
Well, let's see. I think for me in Boston, the one thing I couldn't survive up there was the Chinese food, because there is no Chinese food like St. Louis Chinese food. I don't care where you go. You will never find better rice than you find in St. Louis City. But then also, I ate a lot of like Asian style food up there. So I went to Hot Pot. That was a place I went every week and everything. The North End had really good food, but I do agree. Like, one of the things with Boston is the seafood is really fresh. Sometimes they can hit it with the seasonings and things like that, depending on where you go. Like, I know a couple of really good places, but one thing that people get confused about up in Boston is that they think that just because they're in Boston, that all the seafood is super fresh too. Like, that's another thing. Like, I had a friend come up and visit me, and everywhere we went, they wanted to eat seafood. And I'm like, yeah, dude, they just came out of a freezer. Like, this isn't like fresh seafood. Like, and so that's another thing. But I survived the food because I'm also a chef. Like, I was a professional chef for 17 years. So I did a lot of the cooking. And I went to the same hot pot restaurant over and over again.
I was in Boston, I think, a week, we stayed in the Boston area, but we took like a road trip to Salem, which was wonderful. It's not super duper far. It's like what, 40 minutes away at the
Yeah,
most?
like a 40-minute drive.
Yeah. So, we went there, we checked out all the witchy stuff. I got a really dope lighter that said I got stoned in Salem. They actually just ran out of lighter fluid. I was like, no. I don't know. The thing that I really enjoyed the most about Boston is like, you just get the feeling in the air that there's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Boston and Salem, you just feel it. It wasn't very hard to like find a witchy shop or an occult shop. I felt like I would just be like walking around. It's like, boop, I found one. Boop, found one. When you were up there, did you see any Black owned or any POC owned shops? Because that was the one thing I didn't see. It was a lot of like white owned shops, which is kind of the norm, unfortunately, in most places. So whenever I do find a shop like, that is Black or POC owned, I always love to support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I didn't see any shops up there like that. I haven't ran into any shops that are Black owned as far as like witchy shops or anything like that. I have a friend and his girlfriend is Spanish, and they have a Hermetica, a Botanica. It's called a Hermetica up in Salem and everything, but yeah, that's about it. Like, he's a white guy and she's a Spanish lady, and they own that. But that's about the only place that I've seen up there. But you are right. Boston does have some magic in the area. It's like, I don't know. I think it might be in so close to like, the ocean, and like I really connect with the Orisha Yamaya. And so like I like just being there and being around like the spirit of the water like that, just having all like being so close to it. I think that's what brings a lot of the magic too. It's just a really beautiful place. A piece of my soul still lives there.
Hopefully with COVID, it all settles down around Halloween. So you can, if you end up doing readings, you can end up in that corner of the world again.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Yeah, you should come up and do readings for Salem one of these years. It's a really, really great opportunity.
I would first of all love to do that. Like, you don't even have to like twist my arm. So yeah, no, I might look into that. So I went in October, because I was like, what's better than Salem in October?
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's like the most hectic time to be there, but that didn't kill it for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I did all this stuff. I went on a ghost tour. It was interesting to me that I was under the impression that Tituba had been one of the women who died at Salem, but she didn't. And I thought that was interesting to find out. And then I spent a good chunk of that week trying to like talk to her. I think at one point we might have connected.
So do you do mediumship and stuff as well? Like what types of arts I know you do tarot, but what other arts are you into?
So I do a lot of candle magic. That's one that I especially work with. So it's like I can sense things, but I can't see things. When I was really little, I would see a lot. And I think kind of like you were saying earlier, like I put up that mental barrier and it's been really hard to strengthen it. And I think because like for a good chunk of my life, I've lived with people. I don't think I've lived on my own more than like a couple of years now that I think about it, maybe like a total of 5. And I'm like almost 30. But I'm really hoping to have the opportunity, like in the future, meditate more and see if I can encounter more. I definitely feel things. I shared a wall with this gentleman who passed, and my cat was the first one to sense he had died. He died over like Thanksgiving week. And the only reason they knew something was wrong is because he didn't show up to dinner. And after that, his spirit was kind of just lingering in my apartment for a while. So that was kind of like overwhelming because it was like the first time in a long time where I'd really had to be like faced with the fact that there was something there. And I used to be really scared of that. And a big factor of that being like when I was little, I saw The Exorcist and that really like messed me up. And now it's like really ironic that I live down the street from a bunch of the buildings that inspired the events in the movie. And I'm like, huh.
Full circle.
It did come full circle. I think I finally had to like heal that trauma of like being so terrified of being possessed for me to really like embrace my power.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, I do that. I mean, I'll throw a bitch in a jar. There's a lot of different types of things that I like and that I just kind of do what feels right. Right now I'm just really stuck on tarot and candle stuff. My deity that I pray to is Santa Muerte, and I've been trying to like learn more about her and how to be a better practitioner in that sense. Because the first thing like I'm supposed to do is give her fresh water every day. I really do feel like her energy is like that Latina grandmother who loves you, but just like looks at you, like just gives you a look where she's just like, you could do better, but you don't. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've been. Like, I've been just basically being led down a path. And so it's like crazy because where I am now, like, I never really saw myself before. Like, I just kind of get led to these different parts of myself and like they unfold for me and stuff. So I used to, like I said, I started off with dreams. I still dream and everything too. Been moving into, again, like you, like I can sense things, but I can't see things. And I think a lot of my trauma comes from seeing this movie called Fire in the Sky when I was younger. It was about, you ever seen that movie?
I haven't. What's it about?
So it's about this dude who gets abducted by these aliens and then they probe the shit out of him and they like do all kinds of crazy stuff to him and then they drop him off like butt naked right in front of like this gas station and he can't talk and like he's all like he's trying to explain to these people something or other. I was like 5 when I saw this. So then I got even though like I understand that there are like, we're in a multi-dimension and like there are beings everywhere and that there are like, extraterrestrials like already here and things like that. Like I am still slightly scared of being in the dark because I'm slightly scared that I might get probed. And it's like subconscious stuff because consciously I know like that there are like lots of like light spirits and light beings and things like that. And that all aliens aren't like those dudes in the movie. They probably not like that at all. But I have to heal the childhood trauma with Fire in the Sky because I don't know. I don't want to be laying in front of a quick trip like butt naked trying to like tell people what happened to me.
Yeah, that just sounds like bad.
Yeah, so I'm like, Mom, why did you think this is a great movie for the kids on a Saturday night? So yeah, but as far as that, like I've been led down a lot of paths. I know that I made contact with a lot of different like beings and spirits and things like that because I'm always guided somewhere. Where I'm guided to is always where I'm supposed to be at, and there's always something waiting for me that I need to learn or need to know. Like one of the common things that people ask me, they're like, well, why did you go to Boston? I'm like, I'll tell you in 6 months. I don't know. This is just where I'm supposed to be. And going there was one of like the best experiences that I had in my life. And it was a big part of my healing. When I left Boston, I had to go to California and they were like, why are you going to California? I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, I'm supposed to be there, like, but I don't know why. I'll tell you in 6 months is usually like, the answer I have to give and then like there in California is where I like got to experience like plant medicine that changed my entire life. Like, so that was a really great experience. If I hadn't been any of these places on this journey, I would have never healed the way that I needed to come back to St. Louis. When I was in California, like I got like a spirit calling that was like, you have to go back to St. Louis. And I'm like, St. Louis? And I'm like, you know what? All right. And here I am. And so I know I made contact with a lot of different spirit guides. I know that Yamaya, the Orisha of the ocean, and Oshun have been very big parts of the guidance that I have had on this journey and stuff too. I got led into the Orishas. So right now, basically what I practice is I practice tarot. I meditate, and the type of magic that I do is more vibrational than it is anything. Like I don't really have to do too much. I just have to know what I want and it comes my way, if that makes sense.
I like that a lot. My practice is similar. It's just like whatever comes to you because magic will find you. Like, if you're open to it and this is what you do, like you're going to find the things that resonate with you and work with you. And not everything's for everyone. I don't know. I see a lot of people I know play around with runes and I think runes are cool, but they don't do anything for me. Like they're not a form of divination that I really like. I feel like we should get like a bunch of us fortune tellers together at some point and do like a witches sleepover where we're just teaching each other magic.
Oh my God, yes.
I actually have a big old box of different colored candles, or the ones I've run out of are green, yellow, and black. So I'm like stuck with blue and purple and red and pink and orange. I'm like, I don't want love right now. I need the black ones to protect people right now because shit's wild.
Absolutely. That's how I feel. For me, what am I trying to bring into my life right now? Right now I'm just trying to bring in grounding, really. Grounding and like, opening up to like just like strength to like open up into like my next phase of myself because I can feel myself evolving and changing and growing and stuff. But Yeah, I think I'm actually okay with everything that I have in my life. Like, I feel like I used to have this feeling like I always need to be bringing something in. And I think I'm okay. And I think I'm just embracing like the way that I'm growing and changing and stuff like that. I could use some yellow candles though for personal power.
Personal power. They're really good for attracting joy, which is like another thing. I was burning those like simultaneously with the protection ones because so many people feel so heavy right now. And I really hope that everyone listening just like takes time to like do a meditation or like take a spiritual bath, something. That's another type of magic I guess I do.
Yeah, that's something I do too. I guess I do a lot of different magic. Yeah, I guess I do that. I guess like a lot of things that I do throughout the day, like some other magics I use is like that too. I do like I do baths. I do eating magic, like food magic. So I put intention into everything that I cook. Like I'll add like with every color that I'm adding, with every ingredient that I'm adding intention to it. So none of my food is normal food. If you ever eaten my stuff, it's magic food. I do that. I do fires. I do like full moon and new moon ceremonies. I do a lot of like so at the full moons, I do a lot of like, releasing and cutting cords and stuff like that. I do menstrual magic as well. I do get into like quite a bit of different stuff. And menstrual magic, no, I'm not like my cousin giving it to people this time around. I'm giving it back to the earth more so and using it as like a release on the full moon and things like that. Like I go give it back to the earth. I pour it into the fire and things like that, releasing like especially old like sexual connections, old parts of myself that stand in the way of my creativity, because that is also our yoni is also our creative space. So yeah, so I guess I do magic so much that I just don't even realize that I'm doing it. It's just a part of it's just a lifestyle.
As you were listing all those things, I was like, I do all of those things. And honestly, I'm really glad that you brought up like the yoni like creative space, because I don't really mess with chakras. I've just started to learn about them, and once I learned that like, your yoni is where all your creative energy is, I'm like, well, fuck, no wonder I'm so blocked. All those fuckboys that took up space are still like distracting me, even though I've moved on from them. So I'm like doing a lot of cord cutting, doing a lot of things to release that energy are super important.
Mm-hmm.
Menstrual magic is important. I switched to using a diva cup because that allows you to save more and to be able to give it back to the earth. Earth magic is something I kind of dabble in. Honestly, I just do a lot of shit, and at this point I don't even like you said, I don't even realize I'm doing it. I don't even have to think about it anymore. Like something in my head will just be like, do this. Like for example, one of my friends has been protesting, and I was like, make a talisman for yourself. And she's like, well, how would I do that? And I was like, well, do you just have a necklace that you wear all the time that, it wouldn't be like a big deal? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what you do. Put it in a cloth pouch and then boil some water with these herbs for protection. Put some rosemary in there, put some pepper in there. You can put this in there. I was like, maybe these instead if you're trying to like not have it smell a little weird, avoid the garlic. She was just like, how did this come to you? And I was like, I don't know. My brain just told me to do it.
Yeah, that's how I am too. Like that's like similar to the way that I do things. I just I just know what I'm supposed to be doing, and like it comes to me like intuitively. Like that's kind of how I do my videos every day and stuff. Like I just pull a card and I shuffle them and I pull one, and then whatever message needs to come through comes through intuitively. That's the same way that it is with the series that I'm doing. Like whatever needs to come through that day is going to come through. And that's just, yeah, it's cool. Like when you learn to listen to that part of your soul and realize that you are divinely connected and you do know what's best and you are naturally magical, those are the best recipes and spells right there. So with the fuck boys, have you tried yoni eggs?
No, but I think I'm going to have to.
Because I had a lot of fuckboy energy in my space too.
St. Louis is full of fuckboys.
Years and years of fuckboy energy in my space too. And I'm just like, I was like a storage unit for all of they trifling ass energy. So now I'm like, all right, ready to do some clearing out. So I've used yoni eggs and everything, and they have definitely helped. They can be intense though, based on like whichever kind you get, because with the clearing and stuff, you know how it is with anything, there's a purge that comes along, and sometimes it comes out as emotional. It comes out in all kinds of different ways. So just be prepared for that.
Oh geez. Okay, cool. Whatever gets that energy out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's powerful, but it's crazy how like, our yonis are like what we have used for magic for years. Like, we we've used it for magic forever, but it's been kept away from us, like the magic of like being able to create with that, and like being able to create with like your yoni and stuff like that too. And like that's where your sacral, I know you just got into chakras, but your sacral chakra is all about your creation. And I mean, when you think about it, like we women are like literally, we bring creatures from the spirit realm, we grow bodies, and then we push them into the physical realm. There's some magic in that for creation now.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know. I just feel like I just need to accept that everything about me is magic, and then I'll be a lot better.
I like that. You gave me a mantra for the day. Everything about me is magic. So I'm gonna put that on my wall somewhere, because that's something that like I think that's something we need to embrace, rather than thinking that it's something that we have to go look for in a book, or we have to do something extravagant, like just realizing that the magic is us.
Well, Mira Dee, this has been such an insightful conversation, and I feel like, for just meeting the first time, it just like flowed out of us. Isn't it great when you just connect spiritual healer and it's just like you're just gabbing away, and because it's just like your souls have known each other forever.
That's how I feel about this conversation. Like it's really natural. It just flows really easily. And we just went down the rabbit hole talking about all kinds of stuff. I'm really grateful to be on the show, though. I really appreciate it.
And how can everyone support you? Tell us all the different ways, and I'm going to provide the links in the show notes, but just let all the people know.
All right. So if you want to support me, if you want daily videos of tarot cards, and also to learn like a little bit more about like the healing processes that we can be going through right now as this earth like raises its vibration, and as we move into like a new world and a new paradigm, you can follow me on Instagram at one word, Mira Dee Tarot. That's MiraDeeTarot. If you want monthly new moon and full moon videos, astrology and tarot forecasts with accompanying meditations, you can follow me on YouTube, and that's Mira Face Dee Tarot is one word on YouTube. And you can also, if you want personal readings or personalized meditations, you can go to www.miradeetarot.com to book your appointment. And that's how you can support me. I love feedback too, so don't forget to comment and let me know what's going on.
I think I'm going to have to schedule a reading with you, because I love the healers that really help heal the stuff from within. And I always love to have that person who is reiterating what the cards say to me. So it's just like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I guess I do have to do this now.
We'll have to do a trade. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll have to do a trade.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can teach you candle magic and you can do a reading.
All right. Sounds great. Magic for magic.
All right, everyone, that was the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to include some resources in the show notes. If you haven't been able to make it out to a protest, like, don't beat yourself up about it. Donate money, educate, ignorant racists around you. Do whatever you can to keep this going. This isn't going to lose momentum, and it shouldn't lose momentum. We're all at a point where enough is enough. And we all have to do our part to ensure that this doesn't keep happening. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow me or keep up with me, you can follow me at BexBCaston. If you want to keep up with the podcast, that's Tutia Bruja Pod. And also, if you want to collaborate, work together, be on the show, definitely get in touch with me. Log on to my website. My website is www.bexbcaston.com. There's a Tutia Bruja tab. You can send me an email, you can get in contact, whatever. There's a lot of information there. Check it out. And then if you want to schedule a tarot reading, or, you want to work on your witchy stuff, get in contact, because I do witchy coaching and tarot reading. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Thank you for fighting the good fight. Have a good one. Bye.
I can see you clear.